Welcome to this new episode of the Anime Talking Field, a podcast powered by fullfrontal.moe, a website dedicated to anime and otaku culture. It's our first episode of this new podcast, but actually the IT field is not something new. It's something we tested out like 4 years ago, but it was very cheaply made. But yeah, it's our new attempt at making a podcast dedicated to anime. I'm Dimitri and Araki, the co-founder and chief editor of fullfrontal.moe, and with me I have my colleague Matteo Watzki. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, I do mind. I'm Matteo, so editor at fullfrontal.moe, where I write articles, do interviews and stuff. On the side, I also have my own blog, Animetude, where I also talk about anime a bit differently, but that's it. So yeah, I'm very happy that we're here, that we're finally doing a live, that we managed to do the setup and find the time and find the opportunity. So yeah, let's go.
Yeah, because for a while, it's been a while since we've wanted to do these. So we started out with our first prototype episode of the AT Field 4 years ago. Like I said, very cheaply made on Discord with Ian and Fede. Also, it was kind of hard to have everybody available on time and stuff. And in the end, also, I ended up only editing one episode, the one half of the episode we recorded. So we tried things out, but circumstances made it so that it didn't go further. And then when Twitter introduced the Twitter Space option, we decided to use that because it basically needed no setup, just using our phones. Those were moderately popular, but especially what was interesting with those is that it allowed for us to develop the topics that we discussed in the interviews and posts that we made each week. It felt nice being able to basically just express ourselves on the work we do, share some anecdotes about the interviews we did, and just share our opinions about anime. But it's been over a year since we last did one because Matteo went to Japan for a year. Also, it was hard for me to find a place to just being able to record myself. For the whole year of 2023, despite it being a very, very active year for us, we didn't have the opportunity to shoot to record any of those lives. But we've been actively trying to find a way to bring those back. And so, thanks to the help of Jean-Claude, who is welcoming us in his studio and who helped us set up this amazing streaming setup, at least I think we all did a pretty nice job to reflect everything that we like. There's some Easter eggs too, everything that's important to us and stuff that we posted about on the website and stuff. We've decided to bring it back, to come back in video because we want to try to reach more people. Video has been something that we've been trying to tinker with for a while. We've got video projects that we're working on.
Probably more or less success, but this is one more step for us to get used to YouTube as a platform and for all the tools, technical that video requires. So yeah, it's hopefully just the start of something of a next step for the website. Moving beyond the website, basically.
I totally agree. Also, I feel with written content, there is only so much people that you can actually reach, and that so on the Japanese side of things, we've been having quite some success. People are reading us quite a lot, but I feel on the English side of things, we could be reaching way more people. But I think that trying to get people interested in what we publish through those videos is the way to go. That's been my thought for quite a while.
Yeah, so what have we published recently?
Well, the timing of these podcasts is quite timely because just yesterday we published an interview that we did last summer with anime director Tetsurô Araki. Tetsurô Araki, he's quite a big name in the anime industry because he's the director of cult classics like Attack on Titan season 1 to 3 and Death Note, like super popular animes. And I think you've got something to say about the
Yeah.
topic, Matteo.
Yeah, because like I mean, this isn't the first interview like that we've released, which is like has a sort of personal meaning for me because not not long ago we released an interview of director Goro Taniguchi, who's the director of Code Geass, and basically Code Geass is the anime which got me into anime, so it was like pretty important for me to do that interview. And with Tetsurô Araki, it was a bit similar because, yeah, stuff like Death Note is one of the first manga I've read, and so I watched the anime soon after, and same for the first season of Attack on Titan. So, like, for me, even if I haven't rewatched these in years, like, for example, I'm afraid to rewatch Code Geass because what if I think that it sucks? Like, you know, I don't want to destroy my memories. But basically, these are works in which about which I have a lot of memories. So meeting those directors is really special. Plus the fact that they're still doing stuff today and stuff which is interesting and worth talking about.
And so we're going to like discuss Araki's work and cinematography, talk a bit about also like how the interview happened just after. It's the goal of these podcasts, and also among the new things that we're trying to bring, I've been discussing since at the start of the year, the roundup, that I wanted to rework our coffee. So it's the platform that we use for you to make donations to the website, support our work, because all these interviews we're doing, they cost quite a lot. Or it doesn't come cheap to bring you this content, but we want to try to give back as much as possible to you too. So after there will be tomorrow, I think, or like Monday at latest, we're recording also like a half an hour special episode, which will be only available for donators to the coffee. Still need to rework the page a bit. There will be 2 tiers, one with just access to the extra weekly episodes, and one which also gives access to like photo dumps that we will do of events that we attend, so that you can also get a glimpse of like how like the mood and the atmosphere at these events where we sometimes do the interviews and stuff.
Just imagine that, for every interview, like obviously we just select one photograph, but he takes lots. And for example, it's not the case of the Araki one, but for the Takeshi Honda interview, like we had tons of photos taken during the interview, but also before, after, because, well, we were at an event, he gave talks and everything. So we have, if you're interested in that stuff, we have lots of pictures and maybe, other things to share that we'd be happy to share in a way or another, because, we're all passionate about, like, even you, about photo, you know? So having the opportunity to share that in a way or another is, we like it as well.
Yeah, and it's also like we're trying to think of ways that we can give back something more without like retaining information, like essential information, or maybe essential is like a bit strong, but basically that we're not paywalling important information that we care to share, because
we don't want to hold back anything. But we have supplementary stuff which might interest you, readers and viewers. So, it's there. So let's try doing something with it. And maybe nobody's interested, but at least let's try it.
At least we'll try to offer it.
Yeah.
So these weekly episodes, there will be extra weekly episodes for patrons. And for this first episode that we'll record this time, every person that has already made a donation through the coffee can contact us, and we'll send them the link of the first one so they can watch it and get an idea of, do they want to support this further? Do they want to get a monthly subscription to watch it? I hope that we can try to like bring something interesting through those extra episodes, or just people want to hang out with us a bit more. It's up to you. Anyway, let's get back on track about Tetsurô Araki. So This
Maybe you
interview,
start.
yeah, because
Maybe you start because you've been knowing Araki for.
knowing is
I mean, you met him before this interview. I mean, there is a certain object in this set which gives a hint as to where and when you first met him. So please.
it's true. Nobody picked up on it when I tried to have people guess what the topic will be about. But yeah, this isn't the first interview with Tetsurô Araki that we published, because one of the first interviews published on the website was a translation of an interview I published in French before launching the website, that I did with Mr. Araki in 2016. Yeah. And well, it was done, I think, at Paris Manga, so it's a little anime con in
That's
in
what's
Paris.
written on the shikishi.
Perfect. So I did remember it well, and yeah, it was a fun memory because so that interview, it was Mr. Araki and Mr. Ebara. So Mr. Ebara is one of Mr. Araki's colleagues who has been working as an animation director on many of his shows. I think ever since High School of the Dead, and he's also been working. So he worked with him also on Guilty Crown and Kotetsu no Kabaneri. But after that, so on Bubble, he didn't participate because Mr. Ibara was busy working on Slam Dunk the First, for which he was the chief animation director. And also with them, there was Mr. Nakatake, the co-founder of Studio Wit. So it was a bit messy because I didn't have much time with all of them. It was still one of my first interview. I think I've only did like 3 or 4 before, so it's not great. There is some fun stuff in it, but it's clearly not up to the level of what we do today.
Yeah, but you can tell everybody's having fun. Like, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
it's not boring.
Well, I think so. You know, especially someone like Araki, who has worked on like very known titles and very popular titles in the West. I think when he goes to when he goes to such anime events in foreign countries, like he probably gets asked a lot of the same questions. And I arrived with a Quattro Pagina T-shirt. And I only talked about with him about Gundam and Tomino, basically, and then he was extremely happy to have somebody talk about these topics with him, because they are topics that are very dear to him, and he doesn't get asked about it a lot by foreign fans.
Yeah, and I think that in this other interview, so the one we did in August, there was the same feeling of. I mean, we kept one of these lines in the interview where he says, "Wait, that's the first time I meet foreigners who know about
my Madhouse days and
Madhouse and everything." And yeah, I think he was happy, like. Yeah, that we didn't come to talk about Attack on Titan, and that we didn't ask.
I think he did tell us that he was surprised that we didn't ask about Attack on Titan.
And that, we didn't ask, what do you think of Mappa's version of Attack on Titan and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, and it's important to like both like surprise people in that positive way and create that, sort of confidence with the people you interview. So yeah, it was great this time, and yeah, I'm glad we surprised him in a positive way.
Also, if people wonder what he thinks about the Mappa Attack on Titan, just like he commented about the fact that he likes the Mappa Chainsaw Man, he is rather positive about the work Mappa did. Like he thinks they did a great job considering the circumstances they had. Like he didn't go on about it very long, but we did discuss it a bit after the interview. And he actually thinks that they did a great job considering the circumstances. Because I know that's probably something that many people are wondering, like, does he dislike the Attack on Titan version of Mappa, stuff like that. And also, about this first interview, one interesting fact about it is that it happened on the day of Araki's birthday. And so while I was researching for the interview, I actually noticed, wait, it actually falls on his birthday. So I took the time to bring him a birthday present. I went to one of the most famous chocolate shops in France. I think they're triple world champions of chocolate. And I got him a box, and then I thought, but if I get him a box and nothing for the others, they'll probably be jealous. So I'll get him a large box and small ones for the others, which cost me like an arm and a leg. Especially at that time, I still was like working like part time stuff like that. I didn't have any money, and I spent like way too much money on that. But I'm like, well, if he's glad to if he's glad about it and has a good time and a good memory of friends, that's a good thing. And the thing is, like, because of that, he still remembered me very well. I was quite shocked and surprised because obviously, like, they get to meet like so many people. I don't pretend that I leave any impression on them, but as soon as
he recognized you.
he recognized me right away when we saw him again last August. Like, he remembered very clearly the interview we did together in Paris. So I was quite touched and quite happy about it, that he still remembered it, because also for me it was quite a fun memory.
Yeah, and you did it again. I mean, we didn't bring any fancy gifts. I mean, we brought a gift as we always do, but
costumes.
But Dimitri came with an Evangelion T-shirt, and it was a Radio Eva, I think, T-shirt, with an illustration by Yone Yamamai. Who, as you know, if you've read the interview, is someone Araki is like both close to and whose works he really appreciates. So what he did is actually he took a picture of Dimitri and sent it to Yoneyama, which was both fun and kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, it was a bit embarrassing. I didn't expect it. But
that's why I'm always saying that we shouldn't wear this kind of stuff. But I mean,
Ludo, like, especially Ludo from the team, he always complains about me dressing very poorly for interviews. And I mean, I just try to judge who I can dress a bit fancy with and who I can. And for Araki, I know that
bringing the Yoneyama Mai T-shirt was a good
I didn't
call.
know that it was a Yoneyama illustration actually. So, but yeah, it was really fun.
What a fake Sakuga fan you are. You mean you're not able to recognize it?
I'm not 100% sure it was public that it was her. It's the one with the 4 characters in Paris.
Yeah.
Well, probably it was. I just didn't.
But just with your Sakuga eye, you should be able to tell. Like, you see the T-shirt. You don't buy it for Evangelion. You buy it for Yoneyama. You know, that's what we're here about. You know.
Right.
Anyways.
Anyways. So about the interview. So from the get-go, we thought, well, we're not gonna interview Araki because he's got like some particular news. Even though in the end it was quite timely because he did a new opening.
It was not long after he had released Colors, and there was the Spy Family opening.
Exactly.
So I mean, not big news, but still, like, he had released new stuff anyways.
By the time it took us to translate, edit, and also since we had also like a lot of other high-profile interviews, which we had decided to time in a certain way. So we were like, okay, we're gonna keep Araki for a bit later because we have a large backlog of interviews.
And now, more recently, there's been the Boku no Kokoro no Yabaiyatsu opening.
Exactly.
So it's still timely. So yeah,
it ended up being quite timely because he just released a new opening, in fact, and. Also, the topic of the interview itself was about the cinematography and the photography aspect of his work, the Tetsurô aspect, because it's very particular. He's got his particular style, which is also very similar to some of his friends from the Madhouse days.
As he says himself, like, it's a generational thing. I mean, there's the Iwai Shunji influence, but like, there's the friends from the Madhouse days, as you said. There's also he mentions himself, like Makoto Shinkai. Obviously, there are like points of contacts in terms of style and everything. So yeah, so I'm glad we got to talk about that. I wish we could have gone deeper. I mean, some of the things I wish we could have talked about, we'll discuss here. But like, yeah, it was already very illuminating to get that discussion, and yeah, that. Not just him, but like the group of people he worked with and who influenced him, who probably he influenced as well. Like, yeah, I mean, it's always relationships, you know? So, yeah, that was really interesting.
Well, and talking about elimination,
Mm.
one of the big aspects of the, I mean, one of the maybe not big aspects, but starting aspects of the interview was talking about light and
Mm.
lighting in Araki's works, which is very peculiar because he aims for a very specific effect in his works, like lights.
Mm.
Do you mind maybe commenting about it?
So, are you talking about lens flares
Yeah,
or
lens flares, but
lighting in
also
general? Yeah. So basically, the thing we remarked, like, and we were discussing it, is like the sense in Araki's work of like doing something cinematographic, and not in the sense like whoa Araki cinema or
Kino.
stuff like that, but like live action, a feeling of live action, which I mean, an imitation of live action, which is very different from like because if you, I mean, personally, when I think of anime directors imitating live action, obviously the first thing that comes to mind is Oshii and the Patlabor films, especially Patlabor 2, but and Araki and like people like Ryosuke Nakamura and everything, and even Shinkai to a certain degree, like obviously they're from that generation which received Pat Tabor's influence, obviously, and you can see it in their early works. I mean, we're going to discuss it. But
You can discuss it already right
yeah,
now.
but what I wanted to get at is that there's this attention, like Oshi is more, I mean, Pat Labor 2, Pat Labor 1 and 2 is more like about lenses, and perspective and stuff like that. And when you look at Araki's work, what seems to be the focus is more, I mean, there's the issue of camera movement, and obviously his use of 3D CG in that regard has always been very important, and he shares that with Shinkai, obviously, and the flashy light effects as well, but also the lighting, and also this question of like the light source, where does the light come from, what does it hit, and the framing, how do we place the camera and everything. And for example, on lighting, I think, I mean, I'm sure Oshii cares about framing a lot, obviously, but Oshii, I don't think, cares about lighting that much, or at least not in that sense, because like there's this sense of cold atmosphere, cold lighting in like Bat Labor or Ghost in the Shell, but it's not as natural as it can be in this group's works. And I know one of the things we wanted to discuss in that regard is Monster. So the Madhouse adaptation of the Urasawa's manga, because Araki discussed it, and so we watched a few
Well, he
episodes.
didn't work on it, just to be clear.
Yeah, Araki didn't work on it, but he talked about Ryosuke Nakamura's episodes on it. So he storyboarded some and directed some episodes, and so I think you had the chance to watch one or two. So maybe you can start, and then I'll.
Yeah, of course. So I did try to remind myself a bit of the episodes Nakamura Ryosuke worked on, because it's been a while since last time I watched Monster. But what's really stuck with me in his episodes was that he doesn't. You can feel that he's not trying to make anime. He's really trying to reproduce cinema into anime, and so this has been a hot topic for like the past year, because of course another director has tried to do the same thing, or at least has said that he's trying to achieve the same thing with Chainsaw Man, obviously, with Nakayama's work on Chainsaw Man and Attempt. And you can, if you compare the two, it's done in very different ways. And I think that Nakamura's approach on Monster is really interesting, because you can feel that the way he thinks about the layouts, or I mean the way the layouts are thought, but also the way the lighting is placed, and the way that what happened, and there isn't a lot happening on screen also, so you need to make interesting frames.
Yeah, because if people haven't seen it or it's been a while, like Monster is literally just people talking and walking most of the
Right.
time. So not a lot is happening.
So you need to make that interesting through the way you build your frame. And so, for example, like for me in TV, in live action, one of the directors that does that like to such an amazing level is David Lynch on Twin Peaks. And you get a bit of that idea of how to make an intriguing frame to make the whole episode, the whole film interesting.
Yeah, and if we're like comparing people, what's interesting on Monster is that so Sunao Katabuchi also directed like I think 2 episodes, and when I watched Nakamura's episodes, I noticed wait, Katabuchi did a few as well, so I watched those, and you can feel like they've got the same problem, which is nothing happens. Like it's just people talking. So how do you make something interesting with that? And Katabuchi like uses a lot of long shots, interesting framings, interesting angles, stuff like that. And he relies on the way he relies on the animation is very different. And here you can totally see, the Takahata influence on Katabuchi with very natural, long shots. In that sense, Katabuchi aims to, like Takahata, wants to reproduce like a feeling of reality, whereas Nakamura is more like wants to reproduce the feeling of cinema, and the lighting plays a big part in that. For example, so it's people talking, and it's often people talking like inside houses, or like in offices or whatever. And one of the things he often does is always like you've got the light from outside coming through the windows, and you always have like so what's called in the analog era like backlighting. So you just have the window is just like a big area of light. It's just emitting light. You don't see the outside. You just see light, and he's always very careful to when he shows the characters another window, like to he's very aware of what the light source is, how it hits objects, and so the entire framing of the scenes seems calculated in relation with that. So in that sense, because obviously Araki had talked about that, so watching the episodes, I really focused on that. And yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, in the episodes he made, there are very few, for example, lens flares, but there are one or two, but like it's not the most important. Like he doesn't use a lot of such flashy lighting effects, but in terms of atmospheric lighting, considering the means of the time, like it's mid 2000s, so it's of course most of the pipeline. I mean, painting and photography pipeline has already gone digital, but it's not. I mean, it's not like today where digital compositing has gone. Has really
everywhere.
developed. So considering that, and the fact that I saw some people discussing it on Twitter, like it's the early era of DigiPaint where people would experiment with CG as well with more or less like good results. But I mean, I'm one of those people who tends to think that the 2000s are like a cursed era of anime because the color palettes are often very muted and gray, and Monster is like that.
Desaturated.
Like, it's very brown and gray, and it's kind of boring.
Just like a Mappa anime.
Without those sakuga. But with that being said, I mean, on one hand, obviously, it was an era where people experimented a lot. I mean, this is for the era of, I don't know, Gonzo, where you had people doing really great stuff with those new technologies, and even those that weren't like as experimental, like everybody wasn't Mahiro Maeda, for example, but you do have people like Nakamura doing things and really like, okay, it's desaturated and it's kind of boring and nothing happens, but
the drama.
But we're doing something with it.
Yeah.
We're able to make that interesting. Like, you have this set of conditions, which is nothing happens on screen and it's kind of ugly, but you manage to make something interesting out of it. And so, really,
you dramatize through the way you direct the frame.
Exactly. And and there's a sort of like, I don't know.
And
so lost my words.
But so what I found very interesting rewatching those early 2000 anime. Like Monster and also Death Note, so which are those like dramas set in a real world setting. What I found really interesting about them is that you can. So I felt like because obviously perceiving the influence of Oshi's like layout system, like Mamoru Oshi's approach on layouts of Pet 2, which influenced a lot. Like when you see a director influenced by it strikes you. Like you can feel, oh yeah, this feels like Mamoru Oshii. But at the same time, seeing those layouts, I was like, it feels like Mamoru Oshii, but with something more. With there's an extra to it. And when like looking back at what Tetsurô Araki told us about like the influence of Shunji Iwai on his generation, it's obvious in the end because Shinji Iwai is a director who was extremely influenced by Mamoru Oshii's cinema, and I mean especially Mamoru Oshii's anime, Pet Labor and Pet Labor 2. And you have this whole generation of live action directors in Japan. I forgot the name, but the director of Odoru Daiso Sasen, and who also directed Psycho-Pass. He's also like a huge Mamoru Oshii stan, and he tries to reproduce what Oshii did in anime into cinema, and Shunji Iwai is the same. And so when you think about some of Iwai's movies, who's also like a big anime fan, like so he respects Oshii's work a lot. He's also
he's friends with Anno, since
exactly.
he starred in Shikijitsu, so Anno's
exactly.
second
They were
live-action
already
film?
friends before,
Yeah,
because it was because of. I may be wrong. I may be remembering it wrong, but I think that the fact that Anno tried to experiment with camcorders was because of discussions he had with EY, or maybe it's the other way around with Love and Pop influencing
thinking
EY.
about it, I mean, I haven't seen any of EY's films, so
please watch everything about Lily Shushu.
But
you will love it.
But thinking about Love and Pop, a lot of the things Araki said about EY, and a lot of the things you associate with like this sort of Japanese cinema in the 2000s, you can find, late 90s, early 2000s, you can find in Love and Pop. And yeah, so I mean the use of light and the use of camcorders and putting your camera in weird angles and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean the contacts.
And like basically the loop, like it loops back together. It's like Oshii's anime influences cinema, which influences anime directors. Like it's very interesting the way it goes back and forth between the two.
Yeah.
And the extra little thing there is the, like I said, this use of light, which I think is a little bit different in the way Nakamura and the way Araki uses, because so rewatching Araki's episodes on Death Note, so he directed he was the series director for it, but there are 4 episodes that he directed himself, and 2 that he storyboarded, the first one and the last one, I'd say. And so, for example, what he thinks about the lights, he's going for he's not trying to reproduce real light. He's trying to reproduce or lie. And so he'll have an a light which gets exaggerated just like you would in cinema. And think about it, and even though, like you said, the colors are very muted, it looks very like
especially
black
on
and
Death Note.
brownish.
Death Note is very, very grey.
But I think it goes with the mood and atmosphere of it. But the way he uses the lighting makes up for it. It makes and it helps also because you have this very like cinematic and dramatic lights. It adds to the drama of the show.
Yeah, because obviously Death Note is like Araki cinema in the sense that everything is so exaggerated and everything is so dramatic, and so he pushes everything to the extreme. And so in that sense, like it's not, of course it's not realism. It's like he's trying to push everything, and that's the what makes his style. I mean, up to a certain time, because now I think his style and his writing has changed. But like obviously Death Note and Attack on Titan, it's, as he said in the interview, it's about pushing everything to the max. And so that's and the way, I mean, what my favorite out of his episodes of Death Note is, I think it's 58. It's spoiler alert, the episode where L dies.
He dies.
Yeah. And it's absolutely like brilliant the way he delays, because it happens really at the end of the episode, and everything is so. I mean, I watched it independently because I didn't have the time to watch the entire series. But watching it independently, like, you don't really see it coming, and so I mean, you see it coming and you don't, and that's really, really great. But there's another thing I think you wanted to say about Death Note regarding Araki cinematography and like the way he splits the screen
Yeah.
for dramatic purpose.
Yeah, because like I said earlier in the introduction, one director, and he talks about it also in our interview, one director that Araki loves is Tomino, Yoshiyuki, Gundam's creator. And so one thing I've always found very particular and interesting in Tomino's way of directing, because it's not found a lot within other directors of the time, is the way he splits the frame. Since he mostly does it on mecha shows, it makes sense because when you have one character in a cockpit and you want to show the inside of the cockpit and how they communicate with another character in the cockpit, you will split the screen in two and have one
Both the
character
robot and the character
yeah,
talking.
or like first you keep what's outside, like the initial scene, but you show the inside of the cockpit with the character, and then the other character answering appears on the other half of the screen, or sometimes it's not just half and half, it's like one corner. But he plays with the way he splits the screen, and so to my knowledge, it's a very Tomino thing.
Yeah,
So-
I don't think I know like a lot of other anime directors who have not worked with Tomino who do this. So yeah, I think it's a very Tomino thing. Even in mecha, you know, in
Yeah.
other mecha anime, I was watching Leisner recently,
and Yosuke doesn't do this.
I don't think it comes up anytime, you know.
Mm.
And even though it's mecha, so it's not like a mecha thing. It's a Tomino thing.
Yeah, it's totally a Tomino thing. And usually when you have other creators that do the same, they've been like very influenced by Tomino, they're big Gundam fans. So I know that there's my friend Yukio Takatsu, who does that a lot for his openings on on the Monogatari series and also other openings he did. And so I brought it up with him, and I was like, is it an influence from Tomino? Because Tomino does that a lot, and you're a big Gundam fan. Like, it's basically the reason why you started working on anime. And he's like, I've never thought about it this way. Not that I'm aware of. So, you know, maybe it's not even conscious. Maybe maybe people don't notice it. Maybe it's just me. So it's just like a wild theory.
Yeah, but I think it makes sense because, you know, the other kind of explanation regarding this technique is like when people say, but you know, it's like manga, because manga, obviously, it's comics, so you have a
but then why don't you
have
have
a single
more
page which is broken up, you know?
But
And
why
so-
don't you have more creators doing that then?
I think it's more of a Tomino thing than a manga thing, although like both aren't contradictory, obviously, because on something like Death Note, it's a manga adaptation, obviously, made by Tomino fan, so I mean both could apply at the same time, but yeah, I'm sure that Tomino has played some part in like making this technique of direction like spread or develop in anime.
And so, do you, coming back a bit also on the Lightning and Nakamura Ryosuke, so the friend of Tetsurô, maybe we can introduce a bit who Nakamura Ryosuke is, because we're talking about him since like
Well,
earlier,
we did an interview.
we did
him.
interview.
I mean, not us two,
not
but
us, but
it's been
Ludo.
published on the website.
Exactly, Ludo did an interview, which I think I did help him prepare it a little bit, but mostly him. I think it was
wasn't
mostly him and Antoine, because I was focused on we did it the same day as the interview with Ilya Kushinov, so I was busy preparing the interview with Ilya, and Ludo took care of preparing the interview. So it was Nakamura Ryosuke and Mieko Hosoi, who often work together, to the point that a lot of Sakuga fans thought that they were married or a couple.
Apparently, there was this thing.
This
of,
theory.
I mean,
it was. I think.
I remember seeing it in the like Boru comments where someone, maybe Kevin,
I think it
said
was
they
Kevin.
were a couple. And well, I mean, maybe they were just shy, but they said in the interview they aren't.
No, because they really said,
Yeah.
like they said, if we were, like
Yeah.
it would be like it would be hell.
Yeah.
So I mean,
But these kinds of couples exist. Like, I mean, the most famous is Katabuchi
and his wife, yes.
I forgot the name of his wife, which is totally wrong. But she's been assistant director on like all of his feature-length
Yeah.
films, I think. And I mean, we have an old interview with Katabuchi,
Which is published on Wave Motion Canon.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
but where Katabuchi discusses
We did discuss
that,
this, yeah.
And if I remember correctly, it's like until like we get out of the car in front of the studio, we don't talk about work.
Exactly. As soon as soon as we're out of the animation studio,
Yeah.
it's forbidden to talk
yeah,
about work. And that's the way he makes it
Yeah,
happen.
but I mean,
Makes it
there
work.
are other couples where maybe it's different. But I mean, to say that such couples aren't that rare.
Oh yeah,
but,
no,
so
it does
it's-
happen.
Yeah.
What I was commenting on is that like it seems so obvious, nearly obvious that they were together and they aren't.
Yeah.
It's more like that. And so
I remember, like, I think I saw the questions like before the Nakamura and Hoso interview, and you know how I am, and I was like, no,
I don't want them to be uncomfortable. You shouldn't ask this.
We are not asking that question. That's way too like
Too personal.
you don't get into this. Into
Yeah, but
such
you know how Ludovic is. Like he can't help himself.
And sometimes it works out. I mean, apparently it worked out, but sometimes it can lighten the mood. So
And so, going back to Nakamura Ryosuke and who he is, so he's a director who started at Madhouse, who studied at university.
I think he was in the same university
as Araki,
and the same circle and everything. I mean, it's really the same group.
Exactly, but the thing that's different about Nakamura Ryosuke is that he was scouted personally by Maruyama, who asked him to come work at Madhouse. And then, so you have this generation of directors of the early 2000s at Madhouse, so with Nakamura Ryosuke, Tetsurô Araki, and with Takayuki Hirao.
Yeah, that's him, yeah.
So
yeah, I wasn't really aware before we started preparing all that and before translating and rereading the interview of, like, this is like a thing,
Oh yeah, it's a big thing.
These guys are a thing, and they've, been really together, and there's this thing happening at Madhouse at the time, and it was interesting when he said, when Araki said in the interview, for instance, that about Hirao this time. Hirao is like us, like same generation, same group of friends, everything, but he's more of a Satoshi Kon disciple, and so his approach to cinematography and lighting and everything is the same but different. So that was really interesting, like how these groups and relationships, like between friends, but also between masters and disciples and everything, work.
Yeah, and well, even though there are like three friends who are known to, not necessarily work together, but to have spent time together and exchanged and have a similar background, the way that each one of them, although they have a lot of like similarities because they have common influences and stuff, how each one of them in the end ends up with his own unique style.
Related but different.
Exactly.
And, I was talking about Shinkai, and, well, Shinkai has his own origins and style and everything, but, yes, it's a generational thing of, like, live action cinema, of very interesting lighting effects, a lot of focus on that, and the fact that he controls, Shinkai is famous for controlling personally the compositing, more closely than people like Araki do, probably. I think in that sense, Shinkai must be more of a like technician with regards to compositing, but there's this same like current, I would say. So, but he wasn't at Madhouse, so this is another thing. But yeah.
Like I said, it's that some things are proper to the fact that these three were together, but also on a more industry level, you also had trends appear and people experimenting. And as Araki said, in some of Shinkai's experimentation ended up being very influential to the rest of the industry.
And especially, I'm going to say something mean, but especially for Araki, who has been accused of making a Shinkai clone with Bubble. Which is kind of fair in a way, because the producer whom we talked about, Genki Kawamura, is Shinkai's producer, and he's so obviously it's this kind of I don't know if it's fair, but like it's it comes from a place which
Yeah, it's
I
not
can
like
understand.
it's not people just throwing it around
Yeah.
for the sake of it because that's the only point of reference that
Mm.
they have. There is a common, like there is a ground to base
Yeah,
this
and also
theory on.
another thing I wanted to get at is that we talked about these early 2000s, these 2000s shows, and we talked a lot about color in the interview, and as we said, like these 2000s shows were kind of desaturated and very brown and everything. And I remember distinctly that one of the memes that circulated regarding like Attack on Titan was it's brown, it's really it's gray, it's brown, and that's one of the things. I mean, I didn't mean it like to be mean or everything, but in the interview at some point I say, yeah, when you compare your works today's to Attack on Titan, the color has really changed, and I really meant it in the sense that today your works really kind of have colors actually, whereas if you look at Attack on Titan, it's brown. And Araki's work has become way more colorful, and obviously he did a short which is called Colors. So like his own approach, like his focus on photography and the way he uses 3D CG, I don't think has fundamentally changed.
No, it's
but
kind of
the
the
way
same.
the colors work on screen, and so in that sense the approach to compositing and to color design and everything, I think has changed a lot of the time. And so this evolution is really interesting, and he also attributes it to the kind of works he makes now, which are more aimed at young people, whether that is Bubble or like
Yeah, and also a bit,
especially Boku no Kokoro no Yabayatsu, like it's a
the theme is lighter, it's
Yeah.
more joyful, and so also it goes along to have like
Yeah.
more more saturated colors,
but
more
already
brighter colors.
already Cabaneri was very colorful, obviously.
True, I agree, and so personally, it's probably one of my favorite anime of his because even though people criticize it for being an Attack on Titan clone or like some common criticism that people might have, and I still think that the work that was done on it visually is incredible, and also it's one of the first. I mean, it's among the first projects that with Studio brought. Like they didn't have many originals at the time. There was Rolling Girls before that, but still they didn't have still a lot of experience. But they had all this talent coming from Production AG, like all these very talented action animators, and the way that they put them to work on Cabaneri worked splendidly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I haven't watched it in a while. I think I watched it back when it aired, and I haven't since. But like I have like pretty strong images of it.
Yeah, because it's like it strikes you like the visual are very striking.
Yeah. Because like it's Attack on Titan. Into the story is pretty similar, but also obviously it's Araki, so the style is the same, but it's colorful and you have a sort of step up. I mean, not that Attack on Titan looked poor, obviously, but you have a sort of like next stage in Cabaneri, which was really cool. Which obviously he brought back on Bubble regarding like the parkour, and he's very. I mean, I don't know if it's the influence of Attack on Titan or whatever, but like he really likes complicated body movement. Because, I mean, of course, there's the three-dimensional
the three-dimensional maneuver
in Attack on Titan. In Cabaneri, I mean, it's less complicated, but they jump all the time, and the fighting choreographies are pretty complicated. And Bubble, like they're literally doing parkour all the time. So I don't know what's his thing. Well, maybe he hates animators or something. But
as he said, like he has a lot of respect for them, and he even tries to help them as much as he can. Because I said, like when like there isn't like when he doesn't have any more things to do on the production side, and he sees all the animators working hard on the animation, he actually does have the necessary skills to animate.
And that's very interesting because of two things. I don't know a lot of directors who do that. I mean, maybe I just maybe I'm just dumb, and especially directors who aren't animators.
Yeah, because he started as an assistant, production
assistant.
Is
one of these. In the anime industry, there's the directors who can draw and the directors who can't. And the directors who can't, are usually the ones who have followed Araki's like career path, which is you go at university, usually you study film or literature, you begin as a production assistant, then progressively like
Yeah, you
do
become production desk,
you
and
do,
then
yeah, and then enchutsu, and then series director, you know, and that's kind of what Araki did. And usually these people can't draw, but Araki
well,
does draw, so that's
because he tried himself at manga and at
yeah.
animation, like a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. So he actually did learn how to do it himself. Yeah.
And that's really interesting what he told about trying out everything, because you know you have, I mean, maybe less today, but when you think, I mean, Tomino, as we said, is the perfect example, and Oshi is as well. You know, these are guys who wanted to do live action but couldn't, so they ended up in anime. Araki, you could think it was the case. You know, I mean, the guy studied literature and he's a big film buff and everything, so you would think he's also one of these guys who wanted to do film but couldn't, and so did animation, but actually not.
Well, I mean, he was considering
Yes, but
a
you
career
know,
in
it's not
film.
out of frustration.
Oh yeah,
Like, it's
yeah.
out of
Of choice.
I want to do
okay,
this,
in
you
the
know?
end, I prefer to do anime. Yeah, and regarding that, I was just thinking. Oh God. I'm sorry, I'm that tired, so it's a bit hard to remember everything I want to say. No, I don't have it.
Okay. So how far are we gone? Because we want to do part of the discussion on not just the interview, but also on other topics. But I don't know if
True.
it's time to move on already.
I mean, it's been almost an hour already.
So, well, if we have any other things to say about the interview, obviously,
Well,
let's. But
you said you didn't have time to watch Nerawareta
yeah,
Gakumen,
but we
right?
wanted to talk about Nerawareta
Because
Gakumen.
all the topic about lens flares that we started was because when we prepared Ryosuke Nakamura's interview last year, watching Nerawareta Gakumen, so Psychic School Wars in English, what strikes you is that almost every scene has a lens flare,
lens flare, yeah.
not just one, has a ton of lens flare. And so there are two aspects actually in the movie that are really interesting. Is that so the photography is really pushes a lot for effects, so such as lens flare, but also the lighting in general and colors. There is a lot of work done on it, but also on the animation side, the movie moves a lot, but like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few Boru uploads, and like, it feels weird. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad or good, you know, but
it feels weird.
It's just so different from what you're used to.
Because you have more movement than necessary.
Yeah.
And to the point where I was puzzled and asked myself, does my TV have interpolation on? This feels so like
you had the Jujutsu Kaisen moment, you know, where the old man says, you know, all TVs nowadays interpolate the animation, which is supposed to be in
24 frames per second.
You had that moment.
Yeah, kinda, because it really feels like there is more movement than necessary, even for even small movements have way more drawings than you would expect them to, but still that makes the movie like at first it's a bit disturbing. Like you're asking yourself, why is it like this, and then you understand that it's just for the sake of it.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that Nerawareta Gakumen is a Ryosuke Nakamura movie, but he brought all of his friends, and Araki is
directed the part. Yes.
Yeah, he actually directed part of the film. Yeah.
I don't remember the exact part, but Nakamura talks about it in an anime-style interview with Ogura.
Yeah.
Actually, about Psychic School Wars, there's like a 4-part interview
of
Ryosuke
on Web Anime Style.
On Web Anime Style.
In one of the, I mean, you probably can't see them, but there are a few anime style magazines on the bookshelf, and I was dumb, I didn't take it. But I think there's either the same or another interview or set of interviews about the film in one of the issues I own.
And so it's a movie that came out like in 2012, something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's if you haven't watched it, because I don't think it's very popular, but it's a bit in the realm of what you could expect of like a summer release anime movie, like something like what Shinkai does, or like the fireworks and
Yeah,
like
this kind
these
of
kind of
yeah,
movies.
but
But
now
still,
now
it's
these kinds
based.
of movies have like kind of multiplied because of
Oh
Shinkai.
yeah, exactly. And
I
this
mean,
is
because of your
before.
name, because of
Yeah,
your
and
name.
this is before
This is
the
before, so yeah.
popularity of your name. And also, even though it has this vibe, I think to try to target younger audiences, it's based on like a famous science fiction novel.
Yeah.
I mean, and so actually maybe the right comparison is more. It's a bit like The Girl Who Leapt Through Time,
Yeah.
because it's based on a science
Famous.
fiction novel, but
Which already received the live action adaptation, because there's a live action version of Psychic School Wars, which I have like in my hard drive, but I haven't watched it yet. It's by I think it's Nobuhiko Obayashi, so the guy who made House and a lot
Oh,
of like
okay.
cult films. I haven't seen anything by Obayashi, but I mean, maybe like watching both the anime and the live action movie would be a good way to start.
But what's interesting about the anime is that it's based on a science fiction novel, but
Yeah.
it doesn't feel very science fiction. Like it's very more focused on the drama and the interrelationships of the characters. It's still like it was a good surprise.
But you know, I mean, I'm going into risky ground because I actually don't know anything about Japanese science fiction. But from what little I know, I don't think like Japanese science fiction is very set on like hard SF. You know,
It
like,
depends.
yeah. Well, I mean,
If you take Sayonara Jupiter, it's
yeah,
very
okay,
hard
yeah,
SF.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
okay. I mean,
if you,
outside,
Uchikara no Meseji
yeah,
is
yeah, but
very hard
outside
SF.
of like TV and film, because obviously, if you
Even novels,
yeah,
you
even
have
novels,
like
okay,
Ginga Eiyu Densetsu.
that's not hard SF. No, because
It's also it's not only
I mean,
you have
it's
both aspects in it.
it's not hard in the sense that the science isn't like
Like the science is very hard.
yeah. I mean, the point of hard science fiction,
you-
it's
you
hard
do
science.
have-
You know, it's not hard fiction. Yeah, Gingai Densetsu is hard fiction. If you want, like, there's a lot of
No,
world
but
building
there's
and
also.
everything.
I mean,
But
you don't have hard science in the like they're not splitting atoms and stuff. But still,
Yeah.
you have. I mean, okay, yeah, sure. They're not discussing the technology that drives the.
yeah, I mean, you know,
the,
that in science fiction, you've got
the ships and stuff.
You've
but-
got Von Vogt and you've got Clark, you know, and Clark is hard as F, and he spends most of the time doing exposition and whatever. And Gingai Densetsu isn't Clark, you know.
Okay,
It's- In that sense, I mean, but yeah, in Gingai Densetsu is all about world building and everything. So in that sense, yeah. But what I meant is that I don't think you have a lot of that kind of hard science fiction where science, more or less realistic. I mean, like let's say realistic science is the focus. But maybe I'm wrong, you know. But you know, in anime there was this debate around Yamato and Gundam where at the time whether these works were really science fiction, which we must understand as, is it really hard science fiction? Because for example in Yamato, I mean Gundam is the more famous example. You've got is the in-universe explanation of why they're fighting in giant robots
But in the end,
and
it's
not
a bit
just
like-
spaceships shooting
Yeah.
like in Gingai Densetsu.
Magic,
But yeah, it's kind of magic. So yeah,
especially on the psycho.
yeah,
psycho
and then
frame
you've
stuff.
got psycho frames and everything, and it goes more in the direction of magic. But you know, so yeah, but that's an open question because I don't think neither of us really can answer that. But
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not an expert on Japanese science fiction.
Yeah.
Like I know the stuff that I've watched
yeah, obviously.
and read, but I'm limited to the extent of my knowledge on it. Of
Yeah.
course.
So yeah, back to psychic high school. If you
I
have
mean,
anything more to say.
like I said, in the end, the main thing I wanted to say is that it relates to the topic of like Araki's career path and what he's been working on, and also like an opportunity for him to like it's one of the opportunities on which he worked alongside his friend.
Yeah. Things we can talk about is obviously Araki's recent work. So like Colors and Bokuyaba, is that the
Yeah, Bokuyaba.
the way you shorten it, and Spy Family. So 2 openings and 1 music video.
Yeah.
Similarities.
True, and I mean, so we've discussed the cinematography and lighting and composing. I think those are an opportunity for him to experiment stuff. So as he said, it's a way for him to not lose touch
Yeah.
with the actually production process, because he's working on a larger project, which isn't the day like isn't in the is still in pre-production
Yeah.
and will take some time to get done. And so, but actually, we've seen quite a lot of directors
Yeah,
recently.
this is the thing that happens because, I mean, you have to be, everybody talks about overproduction in the anime industry, which means that when someone looks like they're taking a break, they probably aren't taking a break, because to produce
Exactly.
so much, I mean, anime production takes time, and like pre-production can take, at the shortest maybe a year, but like it often
It
takes
can
longer.
take 2, 3, 4 years. Yeah.
So if you don't see someone for a few years, they're probably not just gone on a holiday,
Yeah, they're actively trying to, like, either they have an original anime project they're trying to pitch and find
Yeah. Or they're
sponsors
on,
for, or they're actually working
Yeah.
pre-production.
And
Like,
so seeing I mean, I'm not saying it happens all the time,
No, but
when you see big directors like Araki doing openings,
or
it's-
recently you also have like Masaki Yuasa,
Yeah, yeah,
also
yeah.
on Spy Family actually. That's
yeah, also
quite funny.
what's going on at WIT.
Or even the popular One Piece Enshitsu,
Yeah,
Megumi
Ishitani,
Ishitani,
yeah,
who's also
maybe-
directing like a few
Yeah.
One Piece openings. Like
Maybe
you
they
can
could be,
guess that they're probably working on something bigger. Like
they're cooking.
exactly, what are they? They're actively cooking. They're putting
Yeah,
spices in
probably,
the soup.
Probably. I mean, don't take us at our word, because I mean, this is
Oh
just
yeah,
something
it's
that
just
happens.
it's just a guess. Like
Yeah.
don't we're not saying they are actively working on something.
Yeah.
We,
I mean,
we
Araki,
don't
we
know
kind of
any.
know. Araki, we kind of know.
Well, Araki told us for
That-
for
yeah.
the others, we don't know
Yeah, yeah.
anything. It's just like
They could.
you can
because
take it as like you
it's
can.
a thing that happens. So yeah. So yeah, but basically, yeah, these people don't take
And-
holidays. So
Yeah, like they usually all. I mean, they do sometimes, but they're all working on. Like, they don't take like 2 year breaks. Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
they're always trying to work
especially
on
if
something.
they've. I mean, except if they've earned enough money. I mean, someone like Yuasa. I mean, he wanted to take a break because
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
he had a lot on his plate for some time, and I think he
Yeah,
kind
and
of
then he quit Saru, so
yeah,
obviously.
and I think he. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't think he was poor as the president of Saint Sadhu for a few years,
No,
So
but it's,
I mean, maybe he.
it's just
so
not
yeah,
just
he
about the
could-
money. It's
yeah.
also about like
Yeah, but
doing
if-
something.
Yeah, but if you're on a holiday and you've quit your studio, I mean, you have to earn your bread one way or another,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah, you-
but
you-
yeah, obviously.
But
So yeah, people.
I'm
could
not
be-
too.
Yeah, I'm not worried
concerned.
about
Yeah, I'm
Yuasa.
not too
Yeah,
worried
yeah.
about you.
I'm
I
sure,
think that
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he found a new place to work
Yeah.
at.
I hope so. So, but we didn't actually talk about the openings themselves.
No.
we-
But so for colors, for example, I think like be it thematically or even consider like in the direction. I think there are a lot of interesting aspects. So especially like the story goes a bit everywhere. Like it's just a music video.
I mean, I got the feeling that, I mean, he tells it himself in the interview about Bubble, where, his initial proposal was just a sort of Attack on Titan clone. And I get this impression that he really wants to do like wars and he wants to do conflict and he needs, like.
Oh yeah, well, as he said, like it needs like the stakes need to
Yeah.
be very high.
He needs violence, He
to
needs
justify
yeah.
to justify the drama that's going on. But yeah, even thematically, it's very interesting. So you have this cross-dressing character.
Yeah.
The themes it tries to explore are interesting, and it starts with this setup of you
high
have
school
this
love mystery
exactly
stuff.
with this with this character that's cross-dressing, that's wondering about probably its gender or stuff, and then it just goes the Earth gets invaded by aliens.
Why? Maybe actually he's the director of the and that's why he. What's the director? I don't remember.
He got announced, but I forgot.
Okay, yes. I'm just dumb and I forgot. So okay.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, the movie
Yeah,
out
it
in
comes
Japan
out like in
next So
Next month, yeah.
we
I guess
actually have like
a few
all
names.
the key
Yeah,
staff.
yeah, okay. I'm
announced
just
on it.
dumb. But yeah, story-wise, colors is
Yeah,
weird.
note to yourself, like we'll try to prepare the next one a bit better with some notes and stuff.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, but how could I expect I would talk about the?
But yeah, I'm sorry if it feels a bit messy, but since the schedule with which we decided to start the podcast was very short, we tried our best to prepare some topics that we wanted to discuss. But
Stop like hitting yourself. Like it feels
No,
perfect.
no, but
The preparation is perfect. Everything is perfect.
everything is perfect.
Yeah.
Just the hosts aren't. No, but still, I want us to try to provide the best kind of content. So I already feel that these are things that we can do better for next time, and
Yeah.
I'd rather directly address it here than try to say it later.
Okay. Very very well.
And and so about the Bokuyaba opening and so for the Spy Family opening,
I'm not a big fan, especially compared to the Bokuyaba opening, because I feel like the Bokuyaba opening tells a story more than the
whereas the
Spy
Spy Family
does.
doesn't,
You know,
yeah.
yeah. It's just like, I mean, obviously an opening is often a lot of vignettes, but the Spy Family opening feels like just vignettes.
Yeah, like
You
just,
see
like,
the characters doing things, and that's all.
put together.
I mean,
And still, the way it's shown, like the way it is on the different scenes are like
yeah,
very
I mean, they look great,
compelling and
obviously.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know, but this guy Araki knows how to do anime. He knows how to direct stuff. But it's just that I like the Bokuyaba more, and I think like the Bokuyaba opening, reminds me a lot of. Reminds me more of like his stuff on Bubble and Cabaneri, or of like aesthetization, because you also, it's the nature of the show as well, of this guy, not going out, but this ambiguous relationship he has with the girl, and so you have a lot of these shots which are still shots of the girl and looking super pretty, and also the coloring and the compositing are special, a bit like harmonies, if you want, if we were on analog, so you've got this things are more aesthetic on this opening.
So I don't know if he did it on the Bokuyaba opening, but I think that on Colors and on Spy Family, he did use the team at Wit Studio, because so for Cabaneri, what they did is that they actually had this makeup division, which were photography, like in the photography department, compositing the department, people who were assigned to like work on the really on the skin tones and on basically like putting makeup on the characters, just as you would for like actual cinema, but for an anime characters.
It's kind of the same on the Bokuyaba opening, but it's more for like stills. So in
but
that
did
sense,
did he have access?
I don't know who's. I haven't
like,
looked into the staff. But maybe we should have prepared that.
Because I think for Colors they are credited.
Yeah, Colors is Wit.
Yeah.
Bokuyaba, I don't know what's the studio.
Yeah, but the
opening could be in Wit, but
did he do it at Wit? Because also one interesting tidbit that he
said
talked about, because we were wondering about it, and we were like,
no,
so obvious.
That's not what happened.
Okay, I said it's so it's so obvious that he is employed at Wit that we don't need to ask about it.
And I said it, like I said, okay, I want to ask it.
Because
it's a boring
you
question.
really wanted to confirm.
Yeah, and we got it confirmed that he's not at Wit.
We didn't even need to ask, because he ended up saying
but
himself.
If he hadn't, we wouldn't have asked, and we would be all the dumber,
we would have been clueless. We would have assumed that he's at Wit Studio, that he's employed at Wit Studio. But no, as many directors,
it's the kind of dumb question which you do have to ask in the end. You know?
Because even if like you could think it's obvious, like that. Oh yeah, all his works are at Wit Studio, so obviously like he's the key director of the studio, so they have employed him. And then no, he's not. He's freelance. It's just that the producers that he works with, like that, call him to work with him, all at Wit Studio, and so he usually ends up working at Wit Studio. But he's he could very well work on projects that are not at Wit.
And what he said about Colors is interesting. Is like Toho approached WIT, and then WIT was like, producers at WIT were like, okay, we've got this offer, who's available? And Araki is available, so let's get him.
Yeah.
But like, it's just, it's not
It's just
totally
circumstances,
vertical,
yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, this guy is open, so let's try to see if he's available, and he was. So yeah, obviously.
And well, so we also wanted to use this podcast to discuss not just the topics of the recent topic we covered on the website.
Because most of our interviews are, it's not the case with Araki, but a lot of our interviews are with old people, but we want to all about old
Come on,
stuff.
I'll show a bit more of respect for the people who interview. But no, I mean, it's not necessarily people.
They're all
who-
about to
who-
die because
who
they're
are-
all.
it's not especially so it's hard to have interviews with people who are who are working on productions that are airing
Right
at the
now.
moment because
They're too busy.
They're busy.
And by
working
the
on
time we
productions.
would release the interview, the show would probably have stopped airing anyways.
Yeah, like it's like now we have a pipeline that could make it happen.
Yeah.
Uh,
I won't say the name of the studio, but during the last summer season, we approached the studio
I think we can.
for a show that was airing, and we could have done it, but
we can talk
they
about
agreed
it,
to the
can't we?
interview, but everybody was just too busy. And
I mean,
if you want to say it, say it.
I mean, we can.
Yeah.
There's no problem with saying it. So we were talking with Back Films to
Yeah.
make an interview about Zombyaku.
Yeah, and
Because it's so. First of all, we did have the necessary contacts to be to
touch
try
with
to
them.
interview the people at Back Films, and also
we thought
it's-
the show was
the show looks
was
awesome.
interesting. So yeah.
And it's a very it's a new studio.
Yeah.
So we
We
also
wanted to
want
know
to
more.
try to help
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
showcase their work.
Yeah, but as you probably know, Zombyaku was a bit of a complicated
A
production,
little bit complicated.
and they probably, they did not have the time to spare. Like they did not
Yeah, I
have
mean,
like
it
an
was-
hour to spare for an interview. Basically.
Basically, it's like we would send a mail. So they would send us a mail. We're sorry, can we delay it next week?
Yeah.
And
And
we're
we did
like,
that
oh
a
yeah,
few
sure,
times.
no problem. Don't worry, we understand the situation. And then the day after, it's like, oh yeah, Zombyaku's next episode is delayed by 1 week, and we're like, yeah. So
Yeah.
do your best.
But getting to the point, since we don't do a lot of interviews
With
on
people who are-
actual
yeah, with-
stuff right now, we
Well, I
were
think
thinking that
one time a few times we were able to do it like with the interview of Toshiyuki Inoue for
Yeah, I mean-
Orbital Children, and also with Irie for Hida.
Yeah.
But the problem, so for example, the Hida Girl
Irie.
interview with Irie. So Hida Girl was a production that actually had a lot was nearly finished, I think, before airing. So Irie had a lot of time. Like the schedule for Hida Girl was very good, so he did have time to spare. But also, what was a bit of a shame is that I did the interview after only the first episode had aired, and so
it was before, for example,
The
all
first,
the Hitori
Hitori
Genga
Genga
episodes
episode, yeah.
had come out and everything. So you couldn't ask about that.
exactly,
because
I
you
wasn't
simply
aware
didn't know. Yeah.
that the other episodes were Hitori Genga, and obviously, if I had known, a
Yeah,
lot
and-
of the discussion would have
Yeah, and
been
it's-
about this.
It's
I'll say.
frustrating. Even like the interviews on The Boy and the Heron, the Ino interview is very good, but
That's the first one
had-
we did. Yeah,
had we waited like a week or
2
like
months.
two weeks to do it,
2 months
2 months
to have the books.
Yeah, if we had waited to have the books, it would have been. But even then, one or two more weeks, and we would have had a lot more material to work on as is. And in terms of timing, it was the best moment
Oh
to do
yeah,
it. So,
it needs to be a compromise
Yeah.
for us to have enough material to prepare
Yeah.
a good interview, and also releasing it in a timely manner where
Yeah.
the information there is in it is also relevant, actually relevant.
But yeah, okay.
But so yeah, and so
we were saying,
the thing is, so what we want to come at is that when we do the interviews, it's hard to cover topics about what's currently airing, and so we want to use the podcast also as a platform to discuss what's currently airing, what we like to watch, to comment about the
Yeah.
stuff that's airing right now.
And so right now, today is the autistic elf girlfriend corner, where we'll be talking about Frieren and
So
Dungeon Meshi.
Frieren and Dungeon Meshi, so
Yeah.
Delicious in Dungeon and Frieren Beyond the End's Journey, something like
Beyond,
Beyond,
something-
Beyond End's Journey, I think.
Beyond Journey's End. Beyond Journey's End.
Something like that.
Yeah, and I was thinking.
So Frieren.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's a so show.
So.
What I was thinking, I mean, maybe we shouldn't say this in public, but next week we should do the gay mecha corner with
okay.
Braven and Metallic Rouge. I mean, Metallic Rouge, as Minami himself said, it's not robot, it's like powered armored suits. But come on.
But they're androids, so
Yeah.
it's actually
okay.
still robots.
Okay, but yeah, this week
I
it's,
agree with that. I think we'll cover Metallic Rouge and Braven next week. Yeah.
except if like something exceptional happens on Dungeon Meshi or Frieren, but
I mean, we're not going to discuss
Yeah.
always the same episodes.
anyways, autistic elf girlfriends. Which is the most autistic, Frieren or Marcel? That's the first big question.
To me, it has to be Frieren.
Yeah, totally Frieren.
It has to be Frieren because Marcel is very too much self-aware
Yeah.
to be autistic.
Yeah. She just makes weird faces. That's all.
Yeah, Frieren, she's really like just like unaware, like oblivious about
she's
what's happening
Just like me, for real.
for real.
I mean, I too wish I was a 1,000-year-old lowly, casting spells and everything. Anyways,
But
let's get
anyway,
serious.
so well, you hadn't watched
Yeah.
the first cour.
Yeah. So
And you caught up like
I caught up
in the past few weeks.
So Dimitri, like when I told him I hadn't watched Frieren
Oh,
for
yeah.
the
Big shock.
preparing our
Because
anime of the year thing.
Exactly, we did the Anime of the Year awards. Well, it's just an excuse for us to talk about stuff that we liked last year.
But I didn't have the time, and I
he
had
chose
other priorities.
Oshinoko,
Yeah,
which
other-
surprised me from Matteo. I wasn't expecting Oshinoko as Matteo's
Yeah.
choice. But then,
Because I'm a normie.
what does he? I don't think Oshinoko is a normie choice actually. Like,
Yeah, but as I wrote, if you read, I actually
Yeah,
didn't. Oshinoko may not be a normie choice, but it's a normie show.
oh yeah,
It's a show
totally.
for normies.
For normies, yeah. For that, I can totally agree. That's why it surprised me as a choice. But then, what
Yeah, I told
what I
you
learned,
that. Okay, I didn't
he
watch it.
hadn't watched Frieren.
Yeah, I didn't watch it for the awards, but what I realized watching it is that I wouldn't have put it in the list anyways. Because obviously great show. I mean, there's no question about like, as people say, the production values. So obviously like very well made, very good. But
everything is
it-
not just about the Sakuga
Yeah,
or
yeah.
the production value.
and it doesn't like interest me or hit me to the degree that Oshinoko or Tengoku Daimakyo did, because I think Tengoku Daimakyo is perfect. I mean, I love it on every level, not Frieren.
I'm sorry, but I think that we will kick out Matteo from fullfrontal.moe and hire another editor.
Have fun. Yeah, but I like. I mean, yeah. Basically, my problems with Frieren. I mean, if we're supposed to be a Sakuga podcast, I'm going to stray away from that because I have no or few problems with Frieren on the like visual production
the visual
point of view. It's
point
just
of view is awesome.
in terms
I
of-
think we aim to be more than just Sakuga.
yeah, in terms of plot or writing, whatever. Because I'm conceptually very interested in Frieren because I think the concept is really cool, obviously, and especially I'm not a huge reader of fantasy, but I'm a huge Tolkien fan, and so as someone who has read a lot about Tolkien and like elves, elves as a character and as a concept, what Frieren does with elves, because in Tolkien, basically the idea is that so elves are immortal, and so they always live in the past, and they are beings of memory. They exist through memory, and Frieren,
It's kind of the same.
takes that concept, but takes it in an interesting way in that her character arc is like, yeah, but I'm not just remembering the past. It becomes like my duty to remember people because I will carry on their memory.
Carry on the legacy of the people that
which is different in Tolkien, because in Tolkien they're just nostalgic and they're just, things were better before when we're sad because everything
just
goes,
like anime boomers.
yeah, everything goes by so fast and everything. So conceptually, I like Frieren and I think it does a lot of great things.
Everything is just Moe Blob now. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Frieren is a Moe blob, and that's the thing. That's actually the thing, because I like Frieren when it's a moe blob. Basically, when nothing happens, when it's pure Iyashike.
Yeah, exactly. But that's why I thought that you would like it so much,
yeah.
because the Iyashike in Frieren is incredible.
Yeah, but basically,
especially like the first big episode.
and basically, I want the entire show to be Frieren and company just walking through landscapes and nothing happening, except there's a plot, and I don't want it to be a plot. And so, for example, like the current arc, like it's a tournament arc, and I think a tournament arc in a show like Frieren is like wasted. And obviously it's great because the action looks cool, and so I mean I like.
It's an excuse to just not have Yashike, because in the end it's still like a shonen
yeah,
manga.
but you know, like the current episodes, I don't know if you've watched 21, which aired like yesterday.
No, the one that aired
and
yesterday.
you know, but 2021, like it's a shonen anime, and so they're just like talking, and I'm explaining my backstory, and I'm explaining my secret attacks and everything.
Well, it's a
and
shonen
then
anime.
there's like a minute or two of cool action, and then they're just talking again, and that's great. But that's not what I'm. And seeing that in the same show as autistic elf girlfriend walks through the forest, like
I understand. Yeah,
there's a sort of dissonance, and so that's what troubles me about Frieren, basically.
I understand. I mean, I kind of can agree with that. So I still think the action is cool.
It looks cool.
I like the fact that I get some Iyashike, like fantasy Iyashike feeling that remembers me a bit of Kino no Tabi or Wandering Witch, that kind of show, and the fact that I still like do get my episodes with like awesome like shonen action.
I think in my
and
opinion,
I also kind of like also the magic system.
Yeah. But you know, in my opinion, it worked really well in the first few episodes. And the moment where I got that feeling that I don't want to see an action shonen is in the arc with the demons. You know,
I thought it was really cool.
Where the animation is really great and the action is amazing. But I was like, do I really want to say this? I'm not sure I want to say this.
I do. I mean, I still thought that even the drama behind it, the storytelling behind the conflict was really
nice.
great, and like the whole action was greatly told.
Yeah,
so.
and it's my problem because I like it. I like the show, and when I'm waiting for the next episodes. You know, so I like this, but I kind of uncomfortable with some of the storytelling, but. It's one of those cases where maybe the problem has to do with the manga and not the anime adaptation. I don't know.
And so, on the other hand, like, what do you think of Dungeon Meshi?
I wish I liked it. I mean, I'm sorry.
I like food. You know, I think people can see that I like food and cooking.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of bland, and I mean, the main problem I have with it is that it's not making me laugh.
So you don't think it's fun? Oh, well,
so I mean, it's kind of a problem, right?
That's just like to taste. Just like food, it depends on the taste of the person.
I mean, it's
what I find interesting is that one of my big problem with anime is that I love food, and I also love watching food. I mean, like cooking shows and people preparing food. And food in the real world has such a beautiful visual appeal, and probably people will hate me for this.
Cut it. Cut everything.
But for example, you know the meme of anime food looks so good. The food in Ghibli looks so good. I don't think so.
But does Trigger food look so good?
I think that compared to how beautiful food looks, like. In real life and even like shots in cinema, anime food can't compare. And I haven't seen yet like an anime that makes me think, the food looks really good. They were able to reproduce what makes food visually appealing in real life.
That's a real hot take, because as you know, they've got a special artist for the food and everything, and everybody's been talking about that, and it does look good. Maybe not
the
as
thing
food,
is, so the point I was going to get at is that for Dungeon Meshi, I still don't think it gets to that level where I'm like, it looks just as good, but it looks way better and way more interesting than a lot of the other stuff I've seen. And I think that so rather than being able to reproduce the beauty of actual cooking and and food, they were able to reproduce well the textures of the food, and there are many details and aspects that don't make it look as visually beautiful as something like a Chef's Table on Netflix. Does make food look good, but still it's able to make food looks really appealing and interesting.
Yeah.
But not to the point where I think, I would want to eat
Yeah.
this, because in the end, when you see a beautiful dish, you're like, I'm I'm salivating just from watching it. I want to eat it, and I don't get that feeling with anime food.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sure that a lot of people will
Yeah,
be
we-
making jokes about this. Like,
We're dead.
that's the only thing that anime she won't eat.
but in fact, I think my feelings towards Dungeon Meshi are a bit similar to Frieren in the sense that I like it conceptually, but
But you don't like the
I-
execution.
Yeah, I mean, I like Frieren's execution, right? But Dungeon Meshi, I mean, also it's like, is it about the food? Is it about the characters? Is it about the world building? I don't know. I feel like the show doesn't know. It's not bad. I mean, that's not the question, because I mean it's competently executed, and especially, of course, episode 3. I think it was Ichigo Kano on storyboards and direction, and the goat, Kai Karashi. What? So I mean, obviously, I mean it's competently made. It's not amazing, but it's well made, and there are some highlights. But yeah, I'm just kind of bored. In fact,
I'm still on my
Frieren,
end, I'm still
not-
entertained.
I'm not bored by Frieren. I like it, even though that's not what I want to see. I like it. Dungeon Meshi, yeah, I'm kind of indifferent.
I think the characters, and the personalities, have a lot of appeal.
Yeah.
So I'm still very entertained by it.
Yeah, and I like the concept because the world building
Yeah.
is amazing, and
But
Yeah.
still, so before recording the show, you were telling me that there's one thing that disturbs you. I mean, that you're having an issue with Frieren and Dungeon Meshi.
oh yeah, it's like we were talking about fantasy. It's this thing that, I mean, especially Dungeon Meshi. I feel like I'm watching people playing Dungeons and Dragons or an RPG, and I mean. We're going to be the anime boomers here, nowadays it's only isekai and it sucks and everything.
No, but it's interesting.
And
so-
Frieren and Dungeon Meshi are coming to save the anime industry because it's real fantasy and not power scaling and fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, so I
It-
think
it's
it
not
was
isekai, basically.
It was Kim and Fede
Yeah.
had a discussion about it on Twitter a few
Mm.
days ago. So it's Fede who was commenting on the fact that after
Oh, yeah.
over a decade of
Mm.
isekai, which often revolves a lot around power fantasy,
Mm.
because the whole reincarnation. Oh, I'm getting reincarnated in another world, and I get a new chance to do something with my life. And it's the otaku, like the otaku loser-
fulfillment.
the otaku loser power fantasy, now I can become like this OP
Yeah.
person, or I can finally find be someone successful and stuff. And so you all have a lot of isekai also who play with this common trope.
You have a
but
lot of
it revolves a lot
deconstructions.
around this. And so after such a long time of having these power fantasy isekai, we're coming back to actual to fantasy in Japan that doesn't need the
Yeah.
premise of I get reincarnated. It doesn't need to be a
Yeah.
power fantasy anymore.
Yeah, but I still feel like it's RPGs. For example, you talked about the magic system in Frieren.
Mhm.
Like it's an RPG system. And they've got mana and they've got and it's still.
It feels
it's-
too similar to a video
it-
game,
Yeah, it feels too video game, and I'm like, yeah, but I want.
which a lot of isekai also.
Yeah.
Like for example, it was Gil who did a video
yeah.
about Death March, where they
Mm.
were talking about how the whole actually slaves like in isekai is related to the fact that if you want to build a party, so
Yeah.
just like in a video game, having using the concept of slaves,
Yeah,
which
and
there are more like party members than actual.
and in Frieren, I mean, it's a
So
party.
I'll try to link after
Yeah.
the podcast is done. I'll link to Gil's video in the description, obviously, if you want to check it out.
But in Frieren, I mean, Dungeon Meshi, of course, they're in a dungeon and everything. But Frieren as well, it's a party. They have those classes, and they
and
they
you know,
have
the
those special
whole-
skills and everything.
The whole joke about she always gets eaten by mimics.
Yeah.
That's also very like.
Yeah. And
RPG,
basically, I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's cool, it's fantasy, but because I'm a boomer, I think of fantasy more as a literary or cinematic genre, and I'm like, you can do things beyond video games, and
21-year-old boomer.
yeah, 23, but actually.
Oh
but,
shit! You've gone so much, Matteo.
I'm still not 1,000-year-old lowly,
yeah,
but
lowly elf girl.
I'm getting there. But yeah, basically, the video game thing kind of bothers me because conceptually, I love what Frieren does with fantasy concepts, but then it's a video game world, and I'm like, do we really need this?
And you know what I find very interesting and funny about it is that so at the end of the 90s, start of the 2000s, you did have a lot like a fantasy boom with like Slayers, which had a huge success. And among the fantasy anime that you had was the Isu anime. So a first OVA that adapts the first game, and then a second one that adapts the second game, which were both directed by the director of Slayers. And what I find funny is that Isu, even though it's a video game adaptation, doesn't feel video game at all in the way it's adapted into anime.
Yeah. But also, what's interesting relating to that, and it made me, I mean, I knew it, and I've been following stuff related to that, but also fantasy in Japan is related to RPGs. I mean, because
obviously,
the first fantasy boom, I think it's in late 80s, is related to the arrival of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, and wizardry
and then you have Dragon Quest and everything. So in Japan, like fantasy, obviously
is related to
Tolkien had been translated, but fantasy is
fantasy boom
related
is
to
related
RPGs and video games. So
True.
it's impossible to like. Whereas in the English-speaking world, let's say, I mean, you have, I mean, Tolkien is, I mean, the Lord of the Rings, like it's a bit like a RPG in the sense that, yeah, it's a party and everything, and it had a huge influence on Dungeons and Dragons, but you've got other authors and other influences which make it possible to like do stuff outside of that video game framework. Whereas I don't know because I haven't read any, but if you go look at fantasy light novels or manga and everything, I think in Japan it's hard to escape that video game thing.
Yeah, it's been highly related,
Yeah.
and the only way it kind of started to escape it was through the isekai trope, which still takes.
Which still is video games.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
really.
also it's not isekai, but
Yeah,
you have Sword Art Online.
Yeah,
which has been a
that's
huge
what I was
influence
going
also.
to say. Is like
Dot hack and
I was going to say, yeah, Joe from Pause and Select is going to kill me, but we've got Sword Art Online. Which
It's not isekai, but
it's
still,
not
I mean,
isekai, but-
since it's not okay, and a lot of
Yeah.
isekai is not okay,
yeah.
you have like a lot of
That's
isekai
it.
which are influenced still by
That's it.
Sword Art
That's
Online.
why you need to watch. You probably can't see it. This is a Zabungle poster, but related to Zabungle, you need to watch Dunbine because it's fantasy, it's mecha, but it came just before the RPG JRPG boom, and it's really I mean it's a fantastic show which is also fantasy. So yeah, that was awful. Why did I say that? Anyways, but yeah, that's what I had to say. Do you have anything more on Frieren or?
No,
Meshi?
I mean, I think we did say what we wanted to say,
Yeah.
and so yeah, next week let's try to discuss. Or if it's not next week, it will be like
Yeah.
let's in 2 weeks or
Let's
something like that.
Obari. we need to have more justice and bravery in this podcast. So we need to talk about
And more
bravery.
robots.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so also maybe we can tease next week's article because we're quite sure about what it will be.
yeah.
So we discussed a lot of like early 2000s Madhouse
Yeah.
today, but
It's
in
another
next
one.
week's next week's article, we'll also discuss Madhouse, but more like it's a personality from like the 90s Madhouse. A director which,
It's another director. It's good because we have tended to interview and release a lot of interviews with animators,
yeah.
and it's cool that we get directors. And I wish we got like more people. Like I've always been talking about, like I wish we got more technical people, like I don't know, directors of photography or colorists or stuff
Or
like
even
that.
producers.
Or producers. They're harder to get in touch with,
Well,
but the
also
fact that we
maybe
can get
the-
directors is already good.
Yeah, a good step forward. And so for now, so until March, we're going to release stuff that we already have available. We're not going to have a lot of opportunities to do
More
new
stuff.
interviews, but so the plan is for us to go back. So actually, no, it's not the plan. It's like we're going back to Japan in March, where we will try to
Replenish.
to replenish
our-
the interview backlog, do as much as possible. It's going to be very hard, and so
Yeah.
once again, if you wish to support us, don't forget to support us on our coffee page. So you can either do a one-time donation, or we're going to set up like tomorrow at latest, very quickly.
That means in 2 days.
No. I'm going to do it tomorrow. A subscription system with a few rewards for all of those who want to support us. Because doing weekly, publishing those weekly interviews is quite costly, expensive.
We had to pay Araki his coffee for the interview, and that was like splitting by hour.
That's the cheapest part of it.
Yeah.
It's just the reality that trying to bring those kind of content, like the reason why nobody else is doing, or very few people are doing it, is that, well, it's very expensive.
We realized it costs money. Yeah.
Yeah, and the people are kind of interested. Well, sometimes I feel not so much, but still, like it's not paying off compared to the amount of effort and money that goes into it. A lot of people it's way easier to just write clickbaity articles about, those are the 10 best techniques in Jujutsu Kaisen. And
we should do that, but with like compositing techniques. Like, do
10
you like
best-
lens flares more than I don't know?
the 10 best lens flares in anime.
Yeah, that's it.
But-
I didn't say it. I stopped myself. But we need more money. And the reason is that next time
we need lens flares.
we'll have the setup to have lens flares, because we need lens flares.
doesn't work like that, Matteo.
I want a lens flare. I don't care.
That's why you're a Canada fan, right? Because
Exactly.
you like Canada lens
Yeah,
flares.
because I like lens flares.
But yeah, anyways, thank you everyone for tuning in today. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter on Fufuro_moe. You can also obviously subscribe to the channel to not miss any of our lives. So at least this month we're live once every week, same time, same day as today. March will be a bit harder since we'll be in Japan. We'll try to make one record
from Japan.
some stuff or to record it. Well, it won't be the same
Setup.
Setup and quality in the production of the podcast, but we'll try to work something out to keep the channel going, because we want to, of course, put more focus on this YouTube channel. We want, we will still publish on the website, and the website still is the core of the of Full Frontal. It's just that we are trying to get more people interested in the stuff we publish on the website.
We're like Kadokawa, we this huge media empire, and so like
huge
we're
media
publishing
empire.
the books, which is the website, and now we've created our anime studio like they just did a few months ago. So we are expanding the Full Frontal
also,
media mix.
Yeah, I mean Kadokawa has like the highest view rate podcast in anime. So
I wonder which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Anyway, thank you everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next week. Thank you.